Hey everybody, this is Jared here, coming to you with another video tutorial in the MainStage Template 12-Stone Church video series. Over the next few videos, I want to talk to you about our effects channels and our effects knobs and how we utilize those in our worship culture and how you can utilize those to make yourself a better keys player. So we're going to talk about things such as Synth Cutoff, Pad Reverb, Pad Shimmer, and Latch Cutoff, and those can be found right here on the template. For this video, we're going to be talking specifically about Synth Cutoff and how we utilize that within our culture. Now, many of you may be already familiar with this as we use it every single week on the Nord. It's assigned to the mod wheel or the stone wheel, whichever that you've heard, and a lot of us know that it controls the frequency of the pads that we're using. Many times you hear in the video notes, hey, bring that pad down in the verse, bring it back up in the bridge and the choruses and things like that. So we may have created this habit of doing that because we know that we're supposed to, but we don't understand why we're supposed to do that. So throughout this video, I want to go a little bit more in depth on the theory behind that and give you a better understanding of what we do and what we're doing when we cut those highs and how it fits within the worship setting. So for this demonstration, I'm going to be using the warm backing pad on the template. It is a MainStage version. You'll have it in your templates. It's a very, very good pad. I use it in conjunction with a lot of other pads on many of the songs that we do. I think it's very rich. I think it's very warm. Again, just one of my favorites, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So here's what that pad sounds like. As you can see, there's a drastic difference as we pulled that synth up, allowed those frequencies to come in. Very, very good sounding pad. I love it. It's one of my favorites. So let's talk about the actual synth cutoff and what we utilize it for. So if you're not familiar with sound frequencies, each guitar, each vocal, keys, pads, they all sit within a certain frequency range on the sound spectrum. And when we tell you to cut the highs, we're actually telling you to make it to where the pad sits beneath the vocals. And what we're doing when we do this is actually known as a low-pass filter. So you're cutting the highs and you're allowing the lows and the mids to pass through that. And that's what pulls you out of a lot of the vocal frequency ranges. So in the verses, you know, he's trying to sing down. It's not a very sung out moment. If you've got the pad wide open, it's just going to cover up that vocal. It's going to be distracting. It's going to be very, very hard for the front of house to mix that vocal where it needs to be on top of everything else. So when you cut the frequencies, you're allowing that vocal to sit on top of your pad. So let me give you a visual representation of how this works. And we're going to start by playing the pad fully open. And as you can see, you have all of those frequencies playing. And as we cut it, a lot of those lows and mids, hence low pass filter, are allowed to be played, and everything that's in that pink area is being cut. And as we open it back up, you're allowing those frequencies to be added back into the pad. And that's actually what's going on in that. And to locate that, it's going to be in the pad bus section. It's going to be in the channel strips all the way to the right under pad bus. This is not something you'll normally need to mess with. It's already preset for you, but that's what that is, and that's where that is. It's just on an EQ, and we added that in there. So in referencing speaking moments and down choruses, down bridges, and we're talking about it sitting on top of the vocals, especially in those moments where it's a prayer or the campus worship pastor is coming up, you don't need to get up there and just be like, bam, give it everything we have, the pad wide open. Although the pad sounds great, that's not what you need for the moment. So let me give you a quick example of this, and I'm just going to do this by talking over what we're playing. So we start playing our pad. And the pad sounds good, but not good for this moment. As you can see, it makes it a little difficult to hear my voice. It's not really what we need, so when we cut those frequencies and allow the lows to come through, now all of a sudden you can hear my vocal clearly. You can tell what I'm saying. The pad's not in the way of what I'm saying. It's not distracting, and it's still warm. It's still rich. It gives you everything that you need. And that's why we cut for those moments. Definitely want to cut for prayers, for moments where you don't want the pad out front. You want those vocals out front. And that's why we do that. So you may be asking the question to yourself, well, why can't I just change how much I'm sending to front of house? What if I just pull back the volume? Well, you don't necessarily want to do that because we have each of these pads, gain stage. Sometimes I may pull back my volume, usually no more than 15%. So I may come back to like right here just to get a little less volume. But normally you don't need to change how much you're sending to your front of house. He has a gain structure on you, and when you start doing that, you can create mixing issues. You can actually control what you're sending to the front of house just by changing the frequencies of what you're playing. So if you'll look right here in the channel strip, and you can also see it here in our master output level indicator, look at what we're actually sending to the front of house engineer. And watch what happens when we cut the frequencies. You barely dipped in the amount that you're sending to the front of house, hardly if any at all. So you're not changing the amount of gain that you're sending, you're only changing what people are hearing in the frequency range. That's why it's so important to understand the synth cutoff and how you utilize that. Another indication of when you would need to cut this is when you've got maybe a guitar that's playing a part that you're trying to pad underneath, or more importantly, if you're in a moment at the end of service where you need a pad beneath the piano, this is definitely a moment that you would want to cut those frequencies. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to be using Keyscape. I'm going to be using my Cinematic C7, one of my favorite pianos in Keyscape. We do have a C7 on the Nords, very, very good piano, and I'm going to demonstrate what this piano sounds like by itself. As you can see, it's a very warm, very rich piano, would suit very intimate moments. That's why you utilize that piano a lot, just a little bit of reverb on it. Sounds very, very good. But when you have a pad that's wide open, you allow those frequencies to just stay predominant and in your face. It can cover the piano up, make it not sound as good as it should. So let me show you this. So say for instance we're coming down, we forget to roll off that frequency. So listen to what it would sound like if we're playing the pad full frequency. As you can see, it covered up my piano. It didn't sound very intimate. It didn't sound like it would be a very reverent moment. It would be very distracting. That's why we cut those frequencies. So let's see what happens when we cut the synth. We bring those frequencies down and see how it sits underneath the piano. As you can see, it sat much more underneath the piano. It's still warm, it was still rich, but it allowed that piano to sit where it needed to within the mix. So in recap, things that we need to remember with the synth cutoff. It gets your pads out of the way of other instruments. It gets your pads out of the way of vocals, both in down parts of the song and prayer moments when no other instruments is playing. We don't need those pads to be distracting. We just need them to supplement what is going on in the culture. So remember to roll it back and roll it forward, not just because someone told you to, but to have a clearer understanding of why we do it. It's very, very important to know the why before we just to do it. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, jaredjclark@gmail.com. You can always get in touch with your worship pastor. He'll put you in touch with either Russell or myself, and we can get you any questions that you may have answered. Thanks for tuning in, and please check us out for some more great content in our other videos.